All right, I'm just gonna open it up and let you guys fire away. How does that sound? Okay?
Sounds great to us.
All right, let's do it. Got down a little bit. Anybody got any questions?
What's it been like being back in Iowa?
Hot.
Yeah,
Right.
Beyond the.
No, yeah, it's been good. Had a big family reunion. My mother grew up on a farm about 20 minutes away from here, Sheridan, near Sheridan, outside of Sheridan. So it was always good to be back and see family, and that's pretty much what we've been doing since we got here. We came to the hotel and back and forth to the farm a few times, and super excited to see everybody. And I walked down from the room, I saw a lot of my classmates from Kemper and a lot of people from Carroll and all that stuff. So it's so far, in the brief 15 minutes, it's been pretty overwhelming to be back. It has, yeah.
What's that experience like to see every member of your family basically moments after the biggest moment of your life professionally?
Yeah, I mean it's great. I think that was probably, if I could say what my biggest thrill of this whole thing has been, it's been to share it with everybody. I mean, all the people from, all those crazy stops along the way, from England to Belgium, and of course Iowa, Northern Iowa, Kemper, Iowa Energy, just lots of different pockets of people who were following the games and watching and rooting and praying and all those things that I was getting messages about. It was that was the best part, was to be able to share it and bring this trophy home, and here it is right here in front of us.
Has it set in yet that you're an NBA champion and the Raptors are champions?
Yeah, a little bit, I guess. I don't know. I think the since it's been over has been probably a little bit more. I didn't really plan that part, and it's been a little wild. I think that visualizing winning it and getting your team to do it, and actually, the buzzer sounds and it's there. I probably did all that a lot, especially during the middle of it, right? And dreamed about that a lot, but I didn't really think about what it was going to be like afterwards, and that's been pretty wild. Right away from the trip to Vegas. We had a big party in Vegas, and then the parade was it was something. It was really something. It was quite, the city and the country and everybody were really, really excited, and just all the things that keep happening. It's really something.
So how's your life changed since that moment? Do you notice?
Well, the last 2 weeks since we've won it have been the busiest 2 weeks of the whole season. I keep saying, get me back to the final, coaching the finals. That's been easier than this, but no, it's been great. It's been just a lot of celebration, a lot of smiles, a lot of hugs, a lot of high fives to people walking down the street, and lots of well wishes and all that kind of stuff. And again, I don't think it's quite sunk in totally for me, but it's pretty cool. It's
How
pretty
long-
cool. A lot of people happy.
How long do you get to be home, and what else are you planning on doing while you're here?
This is it. I'm out of here tomorrow. Obviously, you guys know free agency just started, and good news is I didn't have to leave to go see Kawhi tonight, so we're able to have this celebration. But I'm back to Toronto tomorrow, and we've got some free agency discussions right away, and then we've got a visit with Kawhi here in the next day or so.
Would that be in LA?
They haven't determined yet where it's going to be.
Can I ask you, how confident are you that the organization has a good chance to re-sign Kawhi?
I think we had a really good chance. I think he had a tremendous year. I think it's a great place. You guys can see our fans, and there's ownership's great. Our front office leadership is great. His teammates, everything went really well. I think for him to resign, and probably mostly on top of that would be his health. He was a guy that missed the whole season, and he had a good, healthy year, and played his best basketball in the playoffs.
How did it feel not to, with most NBA teams, you usually have a market behind you. You had an entire country behind you for the NBA Finals. Tell me, how did that feel, having the support of an entire country like Canada?
Yeah, it was, as you guys probably saw, it was wild. I mean, it was, and as we kept progressing, it kept growing, as they usually do. but there was, obviously the games, and there was 20,000 people outside watching, and then they started popping up these Jurassic Parks all over the city, and there was another 20,000 people watching out by the airport, just put up some, screens, and then they started doing them all over the country, from Vancouver and Winnipeg. I mean, really something, right? Really something, and just lots of reports from people I knew that were bumping into Canadians all over the world, saying they were watching the games and excited and all that stuff. So I think anytime it happens for the first time for any team or school or university or organization or city, there's always a little more to it, but it's kind of unique, I think, where a whole country kind of gets behind a single team like that.
Nick, how much have you had a chance to reflect on your story as it relates to the people here? Because obviously Iowa likes to absorb their own, and when they do big things, it really blows up here. Have you had a chance to kind of get that sense from the people around here?
I mean, obviously, I'm super proud of being an Iowan, and I've always said that, right? I love coming home, and obviously have lived in this state a lot, and gone away and come back, and gone away and come back, and things like that. Who knows? We maybe got a couple more of those in me, but who knows? But obviously, again, with Carroll and Kemper and Des Moines and UNI Cedar Falls, all the stops, places I've lived, there's still lots of good family and friends and classmates and all that kind of stuff. So again, hear from all those different groups a lot, that they were following and watching, and it's great. I mean, I think it's really humbling to be coaching and know all these people are out watching. I try not to think about it, sometimes you're sitting around thinking about, geez, everybody and I was watching this game tonight, and it makes you more nervous, but I just try to keep my head down, do the job, and I think being here tonight is going to be really fun and really cool, all the people from Iowa.
You touched on the nerves. Was it hard to stay level-headed during this whole ordeal?
It's been harder afterwards, to be honest with you. Probably, I think if you guys have followed the press conferences, I've said this many times, but I'll say it again. I on purpose, because I think it's part of my job, really, I closed everything down. I don't, no offense to anybody here, but I didn't watch any TV ever. I didn't listen to any radio. I didn't listen to any podcast. I didn't read any newspapers. I didn't, one way or the other, I didn't want to be told how great we were or how terrible we were after every game. And what I really wanted to do was focus all my energies on just how the players were feeling and doing, and preparing game plans and getting my team ready to go. And believe it or not, even as big a stage as it became, it was an insulation process that was pretty good. I mean, there's 700 media in the crowd watching practice, but the schedules are pretty tight. They go here, boom, 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 and I'm done. And I'd be back in my room and shut the door and start watching film, and it wasn't nearly probably as bad as it looked, to be insulated from it all. And the great thing about basketball for most people, and for me especially, when that ball goes up, then all you're really seeing is the 10 guys out there, and the crowd doesn't, you don't hear it, you don't hear the music, you don't see much of anything that's going on other than trying to stop them and trying to score, and just call the next play and next time out and all that stuff. You kind of lose yourself in the game, and it felt no different to me than coaching an energy game or a Grandview game or a Birmingham Bullets or Oklahoma Storm or any of the people. Yeah.
Minus the trip to Vegas and of course the parade. What's been the favorite part of this whirlwind thing that you've been on the last few weeks? I mean, I know you've been on the Dan Patrick Show in a lot of different places.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of really, really cool things, but I don't know if you guys saw the other night. I gotta go. There's a big time Canadian band called the Arkells, and they called me up and asked me if I wanted to come on stage, and to be honest with you, that thing was I said, yeah, maybe I'll think about it. What song? And they stalled a few days, and they finally sent me the song and the music and stuff, and I started working on it. And I was less than 50-50 on the day of doing it. I woke up and said, I'm calling this off, man. And then I went to the, what do they call it, sound check dress rehearsal, whatever, on the afternoon and said I'd give it a shot, and that went pretty good. So I said, all right, I'm in. But I was more nervous for that than anything that I can think of. And there was 17,000 people there, and I tell you, I mean, listen, I've never even. The biggest audience I played guitar in front was about 5, so that was a big leap forward. But it was awesome, and just like everything too, the lead singer, big Raptors fan. He'd been to about 20 games this year, and they had a little what do you call it, costume change or whatever, clothing change in between right before they started this little Motown set they were doing, and he grabbed me right going on there and just said, "Man, go kick some ass." And he was a good coach. He was a good coach. He made me feel good about going out there.
I'm sure you've been an inspiration for lots of people here in Iowa, specifically us in Greene County and Carroll County. Growing up here, what do you have to say to those people to inspire them to reach their highest potential like you've been able to do?
I mean, when I first went to England, my second time, when I went in 95, 96 to coach the Birmingham Bullets, I think I was about 26 or 7 years old, and I really just wanted to get some more head coaching experience, about 60, 70 games a year. I thought rather than doing 20, 25 at the college level, I could kind of accelerate my learning growth and see if I was any good. I was still in the process of trying to figure out if I could do this or not. And we won the title in my first year. It was very, very similar to this year, really. We had a decent team. They were like 500 the year before, but pretty talented. And then we made a big acquisition midway through. But anyway, when I was at Northern Iowa, the head football coach there was a guy by the name of Daryl Mudra, and he wrote a book called Freedom in the Huddle, which I carried with me most of that season and read and reread some of his philosophies on coaching. And anyway, when we won the title, we got back. I wrote him a letter. Just wanted to say, hey, thank you. I know you. I don't know if you remember me or not from Northern Iowa, but I was playing there and followed you and read this book, and it really helped me. And we won a title this year, and I just wanted to reach out and say thank you. And he wrote me back, and he wrote a lot of really cool stuff about how he coached high school basketball and all this kind of stuff. But anyway, he ended it with something to the effect of sometimes the brightest stars come from the most unlikely places. And he mentioned Phil Jackson coming from Williston, North Dakota, and things like that. But I would just say it doesn't. I think there's tons of stories around like that where small town kid or person, man, woman, whatever, can go out there and do it. And I never really got caught up in anything other than trying to learn every year, and just kept trying to coach any team anybody'd let me coach, to keep practicing and building chemistry and toughness and all those things that you need to have a successful team. And I loved all those jobs. I loved when I was coaching at Grandview. I was young, and I loved coaching, the Oklahoma Storm and the USBL. We had a blast, man, driving the van up to Dodge City, winning the game and driving it home, And all the way along the way, I was just loving it and trying to. Never really got discouraged. And people used to say to me in the D League all the time, we were winning a lot of games, and we had all those call-ups and all that stuff. They used to say, "Oh, don't you get frustrated? How come you can't get in the NBA?" And I never got frustrated at all. I just knew how valuable, how much better I felt like I was getting each and every year as a head coach in the D League. It's the hardest league to coach in. Of all the places I've been, the D League's rough. It's rough, man. You gotta coach for the seat of your pants in that league. One night you got one team, and the next night you got 4 other guys, and the next night they're gone, and all kinds of things are happening, and you gotta kind of, pull your shorts up and get out there and just try to figure out how you're gonna win the game that night. So, again, learning, loving each job you have, and just keep plugging away, and you never know what can happen.
You were also the Iowa State assistant coach for about 2 days.
I think it was
do you remember
3.
what that was like?
It was
What if
3.
you-
Yeah,
3
it was
days.
3 days.
I wonder if you could walk us through that, like briefly. And also, has Mac reached out? I'm sure Mac
Yeah.
has reached out to you.
Well, I went up there on a Thursday and went to the new office there and started working, and was was planning spent most of the day planning a trip to Europe because I had about 3 guys I was gonna go over there and try to sign for the Cyclones. And first trip was to England, and then it was on to Athens, Greece. So I left there on Friday, went to a tournament in Manchester, England on Saturday, and then I was down in London getting ready to catch a plane to go to Athens, and Matt called me up and says, hey, I'm going to Creighton. And I was like, okay. And I was like, all right, I'm coming home. I'm coming home and see what's going on. So, and that pretty much was that. I mean, I know there was a day or two in there where, you know, there was some speculation that I might get bumped up to that job, but obviously they found Freddie Hoiberg ready to come home, and he was fantastic in that job, obviously. And then, you know, good thing is Crawford and Jerry Crawford and those guys gave me my job back at the Energy, and that was the year we won it the next year. And that was a big step forward for my career, for sure.
Does Kawhi returning or not change your mindset or your game plan for next year?
Probably. I mean, if he doesn't return, obviously changes the game plan. We gotta figure out what we're gonna do to replace, you know, 25, 27 points a night and all that kind of stuff. And he's one of the world's great players right now, right? But certainly not the mindset. I mean, I think as foolish as I was as a 23-year-old coach at Grandview, I was getting up every day trying to figure out how to win the national championship, you know? And it's what you do. That's what you do. You get out of bed and try to figure out how you're going to win the whole thing. And that's what we'll do again next year, either way.
Rick, I know you're ecstatic for all your coaches and players, but how special was it to have Coach Bjork in the sidelines?
Yeah, it was awesome. Obviously, Coach Nate and I got a long history, but you know, when we won it with the Iowa Energy, that was super fulfilling, right? And it was, you know, we started that team from scratch, and Nate wouldn't leave me alone for a few months till I let him volunteer coach, right? He started as a volunteer. He took a job as a PE teacher in Des Moines Public Schools and volunteered his time. And you know, we literally spent, well, exaggerated, but I don't know, 10 or 12 hours a day together every day, maybe more sometimes, trying to figure out how to win that thing. And, you know, every single day, and even in the summers, I used to drive him crazy and make him come out to my house, and we'd be going through game-ending plays and all kinds of stuff like that. And but to be able to have the opportunity to get the job and bring him and let him sit right next to me is good. And he'll be sitting right next to me for the Canadian job as well. So two Iowa boys trying to take on the world a little bit.
Where do you go from here? I mean, you've reached the pinnacle, and are on top of the world for the NBA. You could probably run for president, win all the Iowa votes and the Iowa caucuses. But I just want to hear from you. Where do you go from here? You know. I mean, listen. I love coaching, and again, they just get up. I mean, obviously we got an interesting goal with the Canadian national team. I wouldn't mind trying to. I don't think Canada's got a medal in basketball since 1936, so it'd be nice to get them a medal in the Olympics next summer, and then run this thing back, man. I mean, it's if we can keep our team intact, there's no reason why we can't try to figure out how to do it again.
Where'd you learn your offensive creativity?
Just a lot of trial and error. I mean, there's certainly a lot of people along the way that I stole things from and learned from and studied. You know, Chris Finch is a guy you won't know, but he's a guy I coached against in England and was also his assistant for the Great Britain Olympic team. Is a brilliant offensive mind in the NBA, and I learned a lot from him. I used to study and run the Chicago Bulls triangle for about 8 or 9 years. It's kind of the only basketball tapes I could get my hands on back in the early days in England, and started running that. And then probably a lot of people in between there. But just trying a lot of stuff, really.
Nate told me that the Kawaii Buzzard beater to beat Philly was an old out-of-bounds play from the Iowa Energy.
Sure was. We, I don't know, I should probably have somebody go look, but we probably won or tied somewhere between 8 and 12 games with the Energy in the 4 years with that play. But it came from, I'll tell you where it came from. It came from Hubie Brown, and I didn't know Hubie Brown. But when I got back from England and was getting ready to coach the Energy, I called up Championship Book and Video Names and ordered every NBA DVD they had. So there was a Hubie Brown one, a Popovich, a Van Gundy, Fratello. I can't remember some of the rest of them, but that one was on there and just jumped out at me like crazy. And I was like, we're using that one, and we've been using it ever since.
Any other plays you use with the Raptors that you used to use back here?
A lot of them. Yeah, a lot of them. Seriously, a lot of the same ones. And the only problem is that for me is that some of the names have changed just because our players would understand a different terminology, and I'll call them the Iowa Energy plays, and they'll look at me in timeout, and I'll call 343, which was the Iowa Energy play, and they're like, what the hell is 343? And I'll be like, oh, sorry, I meant 43 or whatever. So.
Is there a specific food or restaurant or place in Iowa that you miss most often when you're away?
Godfather's Pizza. I landed, and it was at Godfather's in West Des Moines within 30 minutes of landing.
Not Casey's? People love Casey's.
Yeah, I know. I like
Defensively,
Casey's
you threw
too.
a lot of things at Golden State, the box and one on Steph.
Yep.
What was behind that?
Well, we were in trouble in that game, really, and as Nate would have tell you, I was a long time saying we're in trouble. We got to change the rhythm of this game. I kept saying it and saying it and saying it, and then I finally said, man, let's do something. Let's go zone or box and one or something. I was gonna go zone because we play a zone. Then I was like, man, I hate the zone with Curry out there, and then I said box and one, and we'd never run it, we never practiced it, and I drew it up and I said, okay, Freddie's gonna chase Curry around, and Kyle, you go here, and Kawhi's gonna go here, and whoever else was in the game, and shoot, and I kind of showed it to Kyle, and Kyle was like, yeah, man, that's good, that'll work, and that kind of sold it to everybody else. And it didn't result in a win, but we were out of the game. We had no rhythm. They were running around 1,000 miles an hour, making shots, and it finally got them out of rhythm, and we actually had a chance to win it at the end. But again, we used it in game 6 too, and that was huge. So it was good to kind of get it out there and use it. I don't know, I guess I'm foolish enough or not afraid or whatever. I just try what I feel's in my gut, and things I've tried before that maybe can work for a short period of time in a game.
How tough is it to coach at the NBA level, especially in the finals? I mean, not a lot of people know what that's like, obviously. Can you share some insight on that?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I find it, these guys are the greatest players in the world getting to coach, right? And our group was super committed, super smart. There was a great line of communication, or flow of communication, let's say, back and forth when we'd throw some ideas, maybe that weren't, right, down the line with common things. They would talk about it, and we'd work through them, and we did a lot of things in that series, but they kept being able to do them. They kept being receptive to doing them. And there was a lot of stuff going on, coming in and out of those timeouts and from game to game. And our guys just kept, A, buying into it, and B, going out on the floor and doing it. So that was super enjoyable. I mean, to be coaching against that great team with the great players that we had, the intensity of the games, the speed at which Golden State runs their offense, just nonstop to try and find a way to stop that. And again, I thought that especially games 5 and 6, man, those were 2 great basketball games that I always, when I'm in those kind of games, I kind of sit back and say, man, I know this is going to go either way, but it's been such a great game. We just got to kind of let the chips fall where they may,
So kind of similar to that question, but what's your favorite part of coaching basketball?
Oh, just the competition, right? I think the ball goes up and your instincts take over. I always say I'm the youngest of 9, right? And 5 older brothers, and that was competition from the moment you got out of bed for everything going around, and that's what you love, the ball going up, and you try to figure out how to win. Get a group of guys to play great together and win, And if you do, sometimes you get to have cool celebrations like this one.
There are reports of you having a conversation with Kyle Lowry after your mother died.
Yep.
And him saying that he wanted to win the championship for you and your mom. Were you surprised about the emotional connection that you developed with this team just in 1 year as the head coach?
Well, I've been with Kyle for 6 now, right? And 6 really good ones. You know, all 5 of them all-star years for him, and 5 of the most, probably 6 of his probably most winning years as an NBA player. But that being said, I mean, you know the story. My mother passed away. I flew back. I actually just landed in LA and flew right back to Carroll and saw her before she passed away. And I got right back on a plane. Went out. We had to play the Clippers that night, and I walked into the locker room and told the team that I was here because my mom would kick my butt if I wasn't. And he just looked up and said, "Hey, we're gonna win the NBA title for your mom." And I was a little bit taken aback by it when he said it, because I'm not so sure at that point in the year. It was really early in the year. I mean, everybody kind of goes in saying, "Hey, we got a chance to win it." You know, I'm not so sure that was kind of in our heartbeat at that time. And for him to say that, I thought was a pretty big statement. But then it was certainly when it got done, it was like the first thing I thought of was him saying that back in November. All right, we good?
Thanks, Coach.
Hey, thanks for coming, everybody.
Thanks, Nick.